Alright, so back to this. Just wanted to start a fresh one for my actual sort of game analysis video, right? That way it's like that, the previous like 13 minutes, I relegated that to part 50.5, so we're still not breaking past part 50 for the end of the post game. And now this one's solely going to be on kind of my analysis of the game. And like I mentioned, you probably already know a lot of what I'm going to say, but I'm just putting it all in one video. So, and that's why I'm doing it. I would do this as a black screen video, but because of, again, because like this is probably going to be my last ever moments inside of this game, I wanted to do it here partially as well, just also because if there's like times that I want to go and like go somewhere, right, or see something, I'll just do it, right? But again, that's the focus of this video. It's kind of on my analysis of the game. And I guess first off, I'll give my history. Just very brief overview, so just to provide context, right? So I started playing Pokemon around like Gen 4. My first game was Heart Gold in like 2010. Played all the way through Gen 7 on the 3DS. I just don't own a Switch. I never got a Switch, so I never actually played any of the Switch games. That's kind of where I got into fan games, right? I started with Insurgents. Took a minute to beat that game, really, right? If we're being honest, between the first run and then that dying because I did it on a Mac and it was no longer compatible past where I updated it. Like, it literally, that's the reason. And the funny thing is, I still remember this to this day. Because the day after, I got a comment from someone saying, oh, how are you able to play this on Mac? And it was after I'd updated the computer to where it was no longer compatible. That's where I switched it to the freaking laptop and finished that game out with the second run. Other games, I played Uranium, played Infinite Fusion, played Gaia. Those are the other three. I think it's just those. And then obviously this game, right? Started this game in early 2024. Kind of, again, had some troubles. Had a pretty massive break between end of 2024, early 2025, just due to work and being overseas and not having access to my freaking laptop I was playing it on. Came back, finished the main game, and then grinded out this post game, right? So that's basically my brief kind of history of this, right? You know, I will say, like, I don't fall into a category of, like, I don't consider myself a professional. Like, I'm not a Pokemon guru, right? I play it for entertainment, right? And I think that shapes a lot of, like, you know, that shapes a lot of probably, you know, your perceptions of me, or more so just me in relation to this game, right? But just wanted to get that out of the way, because that is important, right, to know the context. But that gets into this game, and because of that, I'm always going to compare everything to Insurgents, because besides being the first fan game, I do think it is kind of the golden standard, and that is what I was comparing this to. I didn't compare Uranium to Insurgents. I wasn't comparing Infinite Fusion to Insurgents. I didn't compare Gaia to... I also played Zeta and Omicron, but I kind of dropped that game because it just wasn't really that good. I played it after Insurgents. I'm like, man, good thing they fucking started a new one. But anyway. But I didn't compare those to Insurgents because I knew they were, again, they were much smaller in scale. This game, however, is similar scale and size, which is why I was doing that. But again, so that's kind of where all that comes out of. But with that out of the way, let's move on to the actual analysis. First thing I'll say, I very much enjoyed the game, right? Like, I think this was a great game, and I very much enjoyed it. But when we get into specifics, that's where we kind of break it down. And I wanted to start out with the cons. And the reason why I wanted to start with the cons is because usually what I do when I do these types of like videos is that if there's more cons than pros, I'll start with the pros and then move on to the cons. I'll start with whatever side I feel like has less, you know, that way I can just hit on it and get out of the way. And then I can move on to, and then I can move on to the side that has more. Wait like 30 seconds. I can't pause this, but I'm going to go grab some water. I don't think that was 30 seconds, but whatever. Anyway, so with all that, I was being lazy. I could have cut it, but I'm not going to. Because, yeah, I think I'm going to talk a lot here. This might be a long video. Who knows? But, so because that, there's less cons in this game than pros. But because of that, I want to start out with the cons. Specifically because if you remember back to Insurgents, my main con with the game was certain characters not being fleshed out to their fullest potential. Specifically with like Audrey and Yern and freaking what's the rival's name? Nora? I think so. I don't know. It's been a minute. But so that was for that game, right? This game, I feel like on the con side has some more fundamental flaws and issues, and I'm going to get into that. And if you've seen my playthrough, you already know what I'm going to say. But I'm just going to bring it up now, right? I feel like this game has two main glaring issues. Two main fundamental issues with the game, right? That can't really be ignored, that stick out and that, degrade the experience, right? And I'm gonna go over both of them, right? The first issue, and you already know what I'm gonna bring up, is the post game. Specifically, the legendary hunting, puzzle solving nature of the story, right? I don't know. I'm going to be honest. I don't know a single person who, freaking plays Pokemon for puzzles, right? I don't know a single person who, plays Pokemon for like the legendary hunting aspect, right? Or at least the grind of it, right? One or two, right? But the grind of it, right? So you have these like extra, kind of annoying parts of the game that weren't prevalent in the main game at all, in the main story, that are intrinsically tied to the story of the post game. Now, if it wasn't tied to progressing the post game story and plot, it wouldn't be an issue because it's optional at that point. But because the devs decided that the whole puzzle solving legendary hunting piece and aspect would be the primary driver of post-game story, that's the issue, right? That's the issue, because it's like, okay, you need to grind out these shitty puzzles, grind out these, and some of them, granted, what I will say is the majority of them you don't need to catch. So, but obviously it's also like, if you have to fight them anyway, you might as well catch them. Like, I don't think there would be a person who just go through and just obliterate every single legendary just to move on with the post-game story. Low-key, I should have done that. But, again, so that's the issue. And the issue is that it's just not fun. It's not entertaining, right? And that's kind of where, my reason, that's where my background and my reason for playing these games comes to a forefront, is because it's like, if it's not fun, right? Like, this is something I do on my own time when I'm not working, right? If it's not fun, why would I bother doing it, right? Like, if it were like a boss fight at the end of each like tier, I'm not opposed to the tier system, right? But like, just the nature of grinding out puzzles, grinding out legendary hunting, if it were maybe a boss at the end of each tier, that would be fine. But for literally every single mission, I mean, come on. Like, it gets to a point, and it is, again, it's just something I can't overlook, and it's something that, like, completely destroyed the post-game experience for me. I stopped caring about the story. I stopped caring about the story. I stopped caring about how good my team was, because I just made the decision to cut down, basically to just fight on half freaking strength for every battle, or to level down my opponent's team to 50%, because I wasn't gonna fight full-on battles on top of needing to do puzzles in legendary hunting, right? Again, it's not even a difficulty thing, right? Because some of them are just bullshit. Like, some of them are legit like 6v12s. And if you expect me to fight that on an level, like, team, like, you're out of your mind. Again, like, and that's where it's like, I'll talk about it later, but through the main game, I had to basically use the codes to basically make it as easy as possible, which I will chalk that one up to a skill issue and me not being a freaking Pokemon guru, right? I'll chalk that one up. But the post game, it's like, come on. Again, I think, yeah, basically, you get what I'm saying. Overall, I think the post game is just a very glaring like issue and a very glaring problem is that, again, and I talk about it, I use Insurgents as the gold standard. Insurgents had a really solid post game. Between exploring the other region, having an entirely new story with the Delta Regis, tying up loose ends involving the characters from the main story, right? You know, all the cult leaders, like, and finally fucking curing Damien, you know, and then finding Audrey alive somehow. Like, Insurgents had a really solid post game, right? This doesn't have a good one, right? And that's just, I think that is in large and by far, like, because there's two that I'm gonna go over. This is the primary issue and problem, right? You know, again, this one is really the big one, because it's just like all of sort of everything that was built up during the main game and all of the, like, again, that entire experience of the main game just gets completely degraded by what the post game has to offer. So that's the post game said and done. Now on to the second glaring issue, right? And again, you also probably know what I'm gonna say, right? The second glaring issue, because it inherently ties to the post game, right? But the second glaring issue that I don't think you can really overlook when it comes to this game is the story, right? And by the story, you already know what I'm gonna, hold on. I'll actually make a separate video on that one. So that way I'm just doing this by segments and it's easier. So I'll see you in that one.